Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you Morgan Taylor's winter/holiday collection for this year called A Fuzzy Feeling. The 6-piece collection features a lineup of colorful jewel tone shades in this shimmery metallic finish that's perfect for the season. As always, I will save more of my thoughts for the end after some comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. The first polish in the collection is Sugar Coated Dreams, and this one is described as a candy apple red metallic. Now, I was definitely kind of surprised by this one because I feel like seeing it in the bottle, you almost know what you're gonna expect, but then applying it, I feel like this isn't the typical red metallic. It's a little bit more pinky, berry leaning, which I definitely appreciate since we always see the typical holiday reds, so it's nice to get something a little bit different but still very festive. And this one had an absolutely flawless formula that I honestly think was opaque on the first coat. I just did a second out of habit and it didn't really change much. Next up we have Sleighing in Style, and this one is just described as a fuchsia glitter. So this definitely has the most unique formula or finish out of the rest of the collection where, you know, they're more metallics. This one actually had a little bit of a jelly base. You can see there's a hint of nail line after the first coat here, but it's still very even coverage, very highly pigmented, and it's just filled with these little micro glitters that are multicolored but not holographic. At least I don't think so. It's kind of hard to describe and unfortunately hard to capture on camera, but this was a really pretty shade. Next up we have Cuddle Me Tight, and this is described as an antique gold metallic. Now, I was a little nervous about this one because, as I've probably mentioned it before, I'm not the biggest fan of antique golds, but I actually ended up really loving this color. I just thought it was really flattering. It's not too brassy or antique-y. I think the shade of that yellow shimmer is just so nice and light. This one was a little bit sheer on the first coat, but perfectly opaque in just 2. I feel like this is almost a pearly kind of metallic shade, so you definitely want to be careful with your brush strokes as well. Next we have You Sweater Believe It, and this one is described as a soft silver metallic. So this one had a little bit of a different finish compared to the last shade where it wasn't as pearly. I feel like you can see a little bit more of those individual shimmer kind of particles. So I feel like calling them shimmery metallics feels appropriate. It's not super smooth where it looks chromy, but you still want to be careful with your brush strokes. This one had pretty great coverage on the first coat, but I still would recommend doing 2. Then we have Brrr-inging It On, which I think is the best name. This one is described as a royal blue metallic, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I found that this one had the same formula as Sugar Coated Dreams, where it was incredibly full coverage, basically a one coater. I was trying to move my nail around and I could not see through to my nail line, but I still wanted to do a second coat just to see how that looks. And it didn't really make a difference. The color didn't change at all. The coverage doesn't look any more opaque. So I feel like this one and the first shade are solid one coaters, which we love. And I love this color for winter. And rounding out the collection, we have What the Fluff, and this is described as a vibrant teal metallic. So even though this is described as a metallic like some of the other polishes in the lineup, this one I would say is more like a chromy kind of finish, and this is another one coater. Absolutely stunning, especially with the color. And here is the Skittle Worn In Natural Lighting. I decided to test them out in just one coat because I was really impressed with the coverage and wanted to see like how much nail line I could actually see, especially in direct sun. And it was incredibly minimal. I feel like the most obvious was the gold on my pointer finger, but only from this specific angle. I feel like seeing it head on, you just can't really see it that well. But if you really want to go for 100% full coverage, I think the only ones that really need 2 coats are the gold and silver and Sleighing in Style, which is on the right side of my thumb, because again, that one had a little bit more of a jelly sort of base. And speaking of my thumb, I do acknowledge that these 2 shades are a little too similar to maybe be in the same collection. Now getting into comparisons, I wanted to start with Sugar Coated Dreams and quickly show this next to cracked polishes, Eat, Drink, and Be Cherry, which as you can see is a much brighter cherry red metallic, so definitely not a dupe. If anything, I thought it was going to be closer to something like Olive Ave's Garnet, which is this really beautiful red metallic kind of Christmassy holiday shade, but as you can see that one's a little bit more vibrant. And I also wanted to show this next to OPI's Big Sagittarius Energy, since I thought that would be a little bit more similar finish wise, since Garnet almost has that metallic-y chrome finish. But as you can see, there definitely is a very clear difference here, even with the color alone, where Sugar Coated Dreams is just a little bit lighter and more pink leaning. And even though you already saw these side by side in the Skittle portion, I did want to give a closer look at Sugar Coated Dreams next to Sleighing in Style, since they did end up looking pretty similar to each other on the nail. Like, there definitely is a difference, especially in terms of the finish, but color-wise, I feel like they ended up looking more similar than what you would expect just by looking at them in the bottle, you know? Moving on to Sleighing in Style, I was immediately reminded of a couple of OPI holiday shades from a few years ago. I thought Rhinestone Ready was going to be similar in terms of finish, but it's way off. If anything, Pink, Bling, and Be Merry is a little bit more similar, but that one's too light of a pink and also more of a pearly shimmer. So I thought the closest that I had in my collection to a dupe would be China Glaze's Ruby Riches, but that ended up being a little bit too dark on the nail. So they're all sister kind of polishes, but not dupes. Next, for Cuddle Me Tight, I wanted to quickly show this next to Crack's bit of Bubalay from the Food Coma collection. That one I would say has a little bit more of an antique feel to it. So for a closer color comparison, I had C&D's It's Getting Golder from their winter collection last year, and OPI's Sleigh Bells Bling from a couple of years ago. This one is actually a secret magnetic if you didn't know, but I'm going to be showing it unmagnetized. So on the nail, I thought that these were going to be more similar than they ended up being. Like, there are subtle differences where I don't think you need all three. I think my favorite is the C&D, but I do really like the Morgan Taylor. Next, for You Sweater Believe It, I knew I had to show this next to Cirque's Sterling, which is their silver metallic kind of shade. That one is a little bit more of a true chromey finish though, and I did also want to show this next to Mooncat's Outlaw Country, which I would say is a little bit more similar in finish. I mean, I know it looks similar in the bottle too, but seeing them on the nail, the Mooncat shade is definitely a bit darker in color. So Sterling is more similar to Morgan Taylor's. It's a little bit smoother and also more like of a whitened silver, while Mooncat's is more gunmetal-y. Then for Bringing It On, I wanted to show it next to a couple of the Morgan Taylor winter shades from last year. The first one is Before My Berry Eyes, but that one's more of a lighter reddish purple metallic shimmer. The more blue-toned purple was Gift It Your Best, but that one is way too light and also more chromy. Then I remembered Zoya's Meredith, which is a darker blue metallic shimmer kind of finish. These definitely looked pretty similar in the bottle, so I was pretty excited, but then seeing them on the nail, there is a very clear difference where Zoya is this deeper, more inky navy blue with more of a subtle shimmer compared to a metallic formula. I could have sworn I had something closer in color at least to Bringing It On, so I wanted to show this next to ILNP's Winter Dream, but that is way too light and too silvery. And then I remembered ILNP's Shooting Star, which is kind of similar to Winter Dream, but a little bit darker. That one is a magnetic, but I'm showing it unmagnetized, and unfortunately on the nail, there still is a difference where it's just still a little too light to Bringing It On. And lastly, for What the Fluff, I wanted to quickly show this next to Holo Taco's Mint Mojito, which I had just picked up for Black Friday. I thought these were going to be similar in color, but they're not. I think the closer shade of green is something like ILNP's Forever from their Eternal collection, but again, that one's more of a foily metallic finish. And I did also want to show this next to OPI's Decked to the Pines from their winter collection a couple of years ago. That one has a little bit more of a similar shimmer metallic finish, not quite as chromy as What the Fluff, but either way, the shades of green are just not comparable. It's a little more yellow leaning in OPI, so ILNP is closer, but What the Fluff is just brighter. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Morgan Taylor's A Fuzzy Feeling collection. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of this lineup because I definitely thought it was fun and festive. I feel like it has been a little while since I shared Morgan Taylor on my channel, and I feel like it's usually because they do a lot of cream finishes, and not that there's anything wrong with creams, it's almost like the opposite. I find Morgan Taylor's creams are exceptionally amazing, like almost one coaters, just flawless coverage, and there's just not much else to say about that. So I feel like the reviews can almost be boring because they're so good. And obviously not to say that like these are bad in contrast, but it's just like the finishes are just a lot more exciting from what I've seen from Morgan Taylor. So I wanted to share these on my channel. I definitely think they give those fun, festive vibes for the holiday season, especially when I think of like holiday parties. So I'm definitely a fan of that, especially in comparison to the traditional sort of holiday lineups that we'll see, or the very like blue heavy winter collections that are usually put out. I feel like this is just a fun mix of colors and finishes. But of course, let me know what you think down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.